is going to be on the call tonight. Huge game, obviously. Vikings at Chargers from SoFi. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
We're doing great, Kirk. What's it like out there? Obviously, we know your travels are documented, throughout every single week. It's unbelievable. I think Peter, Mitch, you got multiple dogs making the trip this week. I don't know if they're with you now. I don't know if they're joining you at game day, whatever it might be. But what's it like out there? And what was it like? I assume you talked to both these coaching staffs.
Yeah, Peter's with me right now. We're flying back to Nashville tonight after the game with game day and Vandy, and I'm gonna first time bring the other guys out to say hello to some people on Saturday. But this game is interesting. Minnesota is a team that I think we're all very excited about what they can be and who they can be this year. I see your photo there of Carson Wentz. That was a big question. Was J.J. McCarthy, was his ankle going to be ready to go? Would they green light him this week or maybe wait another week? Turns out Carson will continue to go. He's 2-2 as a starter filling in for J.J. McCarthy. And yet, they've had offensive line injuries, just like a lot of teams at this point. You guys know what it's like following your teams and just the entire league. We get to this point in the season, but some have been hit a lot harder than others, and these are two really good examples of teams that are just trying to hold on, trying to survive, and getting a little healthier. But the Chargers started 3-0. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They're reeling a bit. And a big opportunity after an incredibly disappointing game, as you guys saw against Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, who just they did really anything they wanted to offensively against the Chargers defense, whether it was running or Daniel Jones making good decisions. That's a whole different story. I know you guys are enjoying what Indy's been about, but the Chargers are reeling, and sometimes when you're reeling, AJ, you probably lived this. Sometimes those short weeks that are often dreaded by players. Sometimes you're looking forward to just getting back out there and trying to get that bad taste out of your mouth. And my sense is that's kind of where the Chargers defense is.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, I think anytime you get beat, you cannot wait to get back out there and try to figure things out and make it right, I guess. When you watch this Chargers offense and defense play, I guess, but their offense specifically, you said they've lost 3 out of the last 4. What's going on with them? What do they have to do, I guess, to turn this thing around tonight?
Well, I just talked to Greg Roman this morning, their offensive coordinator, and their entire investment of this offseason was to get better in the backfield. And they, got Omarion Hampton from North Carolina and brought Najee Harris over from Pittsburgh. They just thought, they wanted to get back to being a great running team, take some of the heat off of the passing game and Justin Herbert. And then Slater gets hurt in camp. Rashawn Slater, one of the best left tackles in the game, gets hurt in camp. And now that was a massive blow to their culture, their DNA. So they took Joe Alt, who's a stud from Notre Dame at right tackle. They had to move him over to left tackle. And that really impacted things, I think. And then he gets hurt. So they've been playing like their 5th and 6th offensive tackle in recent weeks. And yet they're still a top 5 offense. So they went from being, hey, let's run the football, let's get 2 tight ends, and then we'll take it off of Herbert. As you see in that photo or that video there, Herbert's gotten hit more than any quarterback in the entire league because they've had to abort who they want to be, their identity, which is running the ball, and let Herbert complement the running game. They've gone back to who they were as an offense before Harbaugh and Roman got there, which is spread people out and make him throw the time. I think they were down last week. He threw it 55 times last week, and it's just not who they want to be. So they've been banged up front at the offensive line. They've lost 3 of their top 4 running backs. And so a lot of it has been on all the passing game. So now they go up against Brian Flores and a Vikings defense, as we all know, that loves to pressure and loves to come after you. So be interesting to see kind of the game plan that they come up with to try to negate that pressure package that Flores and the Vikings like to play with.
Todd Schmidt, you got something?
Yeah, Kirk, you mentioned the quarterback situation and how we didn't maybe know if it was going to be Carson or JJ. Whether it's who you've talked to or kind of just your opinion of the whole thing, what do you think is the ultimate plan, I guess, for the Vikings with their quarterback situation. A lot of people saying the whole J.J. McCarthy is, like a soft benching, if you will, and they're kind of just going to let Carson, find his feet. And then obviously you have what Sam Darnold's doing in Seattle that's kind of just rubbing it in a little bit. But do you have like any feel that, hey, if Carson Wentz goes out there, looks good tonight, and kind of maybe strings together a couple wins, like does he have the chance here to maybe be the Vikings starter for the rest of the season, or are they still all gung-ho on JJ and he'll be back whenever he's, I guess, healthier than he is now?
I mean, Ty, you know this division. I mean, it's your team's in there, and you follow it closely. I think what you're alluding to is you almost have to read between the lines. No one is coming out, including O'Connell, and saying that, hey, here's what we think. I think they're talking strictly about the ankle and his availability, and no one's saying that Carson Wentz, who's 2-2 right now, has a chance to be the guy. I will say this. I know J.J. McCarthy in that opener against Chicago didn't play great. He had that nice quarter late to be able to pull out a win. But if you guys go back to that game, the reason I've been a big fan of J.J. McCarthy's is the juice that he brings, the way his team believes in him. And if you saw the reaction that night, you had defensive players coming down. You had JJ or Justin Jefferson. Like, everybody responds to him. So I think there's a lot there to like. I think there's a lot there to think about the potential of what he and this offense can be with him as a starting quarterback. But I think what you're alluding to is fair. I mean, what if Carson Wentz goes out tonight and just plays awesome? What if he's hitting everything, making good decisions, not turning the ball over, and they get out with a win? And then next week they're gonna ask Kevin O'Connell what's going on with the ankle. Is JJ McCarthy, because it sounded like it was almost right on the edge of being able to pull the trigger and play him this week. So if that's the case, you get a mini bye on a Thursday night game for next Sunday. Why wouldn't he be ready to go next week, regardless of what Carson Wentz does, if he's your guy? Now I step back for a second. When you have a high ankle sprain, you're getting mental reps, but you're not. Think about in 2 years. Forget playing. He hasn't gotten practice, just developmental practice of getting reps, and you just wonder how much that has slowed down his potential growth. So I don't know. I don't think it's J.J. McCarthy's a miss on a draft pick. I think it's more of, we got this guy Carson Wentz that's functioning pretty well. We got our other guy that we think is going to be the guy, but he's not even on the practice field. So how do we go from a guy who's, let's say, 3-2 as a starter to a guy that's not had any reps? I don't know. I understand where the kind of the spot that he's in right now as a head coach and play caller, but I think it's a fair discussion for Minnesota media and fans to wonder, where is this heading 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now? Are we waiting for Carson Wentz to implode and then you go to J.J. McCarthy? Or does it not even matter what Wentz does? At some point, they're going to go to their guy because they believe in him, despite not getting a whole lot of reps.
Yeah, Kirk, when you watch this Vikings team, obviously you talk to Kevin O'Connell. Like, what separates him as a coach? We know, like, the old saying, hey, you could plug anybody in there at QB, it feels like, and Kevin O'Connell is going to get them right. He's going to give them a good chance to be successful. Like, from talking to him and watching him, what is it that makes him special?
I think it's just, you always hear that saying, quarterback-friendly offense. I think it's because of the way they attack. They don't put it all on the quarterback. They run the football, typically when they're healthy. And by the way, Aaron Jones will be back tonight, which is a massive deal. When they picked up Jordan Mason last year from San Francisco, what they envisioned is taking some of the heat off of Aaron Jones and letting them be a tandem and a combination. And so you have that now with him coming back. So I think that's great. But I think the reason these Kirk Cousins and, what we've seen under Kevin O'Connell with Sam Darnold, the reason he's able to do that is because you got great personnel around the position. They don't put everything on the quarterback. They run the ball, they boot, they naked, they play action. Their drop back game is rhythmic, timing, get the ball out. They give you answers as a quarterback. So I think he's one of the better play callers, in my opinion, in the NFL, and does as good a job as anybody at diagnosing a defense and knowing how to attack it and finding its weaknesses. So you got a Chargers defense that's more than capable of playing better than they have in recent weeks. I think they've lost a little bit of their mojo and confidence. And like I said earlier, I think a short week, getting Khalil Mack back, he played 12 snaps last week just as a pass rusher. And meanwhile, even at 34 years old, he still sets the edge and is really physical. Denzel Perryman came back last week. So I think some pieces are coming back. But to answer your question, I just think Kevin O'Connell does a really good job of providing answers and not making the quarterback feel like we're going to go as you go. I think there's enough weapons around that position. Think about it. You got Justin Jefferson, arguably the top receiver in the entire league on one side, Jordan Addison on the other. You got TJ Hawkinson, who's getting more and more healthier as far as that ACL he's recovering from, Jalen Naylor. You got Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones. I mean, there's a lot there, and I think it makes the quarterback feel like, okay, I don't have to feel like I got to play Superman ball for us to be able to move the football. And if you watch Sam Darnold last year, he seemed to he'd get back, one hitch, balls out. He gives these quarterbacks confidence because he gives them answers.
Yeah, I think we're all excited to watch the Carson Wentz experience tonight. We know that guy's going to have a few extended plays where he stumbles around, he finds a way, and who knows, maybe it'll be a 70-yard completion, maybe something else may happen.
But something kind of came through the wire today. An SEC ref, Ken Williamson, was permanently suspended. The decision to remove the longtime referee comes in the immediate wake of an SEC review of 11 complaints against Williamson, from the Auburn-Georgia game. Now, I believe it was last year on Thursday Night Football, you were calling the Vikings game against the Rams in L.A., and that game kind of ended controversially with the face mask of Darnold. I don't know if it was Thursday Night Football, but it might.
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. Something like this seems to be incredibly forward-thinking, if you will, when it comes to the referee situation, and there's been others as well. But when you see something like this that the SEC is doing, do you think that is something that will ever be kind of universally done by sports, not just the NFL, not just college football, but all sports across the board? The MLB, umpire during the Blue Jays Mariners game was kind of scrutinized for the same pitch, one being called a ball, the other being called a strike. And then there are situations that pop up all over when it comes to refs in sports. What do you kind of think about that situation? And also, real quick, thanks for coming on and talking to the Bugle boys. We know this show sucks without Pat, so you coming on actually makes it much better. We very much appreciate that, Kirk.
Man, I'll join you guys anytime. I love you guys. I would say, I don't know how you feel about this, Connor. I look at this where I don't mind, the bang play at first base without going to replay. I don't mind the human error. I don't mind, and I've had my teams, that I cheer for get the bad end of that. But I think there's certain calls that I think that's part of the game, where before the replay, or a guy makes it's a call in the gray area and it could go this way or that way and it goes against you and it's the end of the world. With that being said, that's kind of like the way I always grew up, and just, it's part of the game. I hate blaming referees or umpires for games.
Amen.
But with that being said, I do think that if a guy has consistently had rough outings where a league or a conference has to call a coach or call an athletic director and basically apologize for a miss. And that happens at a regular rate, then I think this is, as you said, groundbreaking. Can you guys remember anything like this?
No.
A guy in the middle of a season is asked to take a seat? I've never heard of anything like that. I think it's you talk about holding players and coaches and everybody accountable. Referees have always never really had to deal with that, maybe in the off season, but not in season. So I think it's an eye opener. I'm a referee guy. I'm pro referee. I think they fans get way too emotional about it, but I'm interested to see what this leads to, and if we end up, this is kind of like that first example, and now you start to see it more and more, not just in college football, but all around sports.